Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Napkin Numbers, where we're going to discuss having a buyer for your business. Are they real or are they Memorex? No, that's live or Memorex. Shoot, I'm dating
Yeah.
myself now. But we obviously deal with people transitioning their businesses. We work with buyers too, and we have a lot of insight in this arena. And so, Scott, why don't you kind of talk through the process of when you have a buyer for your business?
Absolutely. If you're selling your company and you get to that moment where somebody says, I want to buy your company, that's a big moment. And a lot of people get super excited, but that's just the beginning. I mean, the first part is that's when they start preparing that offer, right? The letter of intent. And so there's not a lot for you to do at that point except for sit there with your fingers crossed and wait for the day when they finally send it over. There may be some additional due diligence that you're doing in the beginning. They might have some questions, but most of the time, it's going to have to go off your investment teaser, your confidential information that you've sent over ahead of time, the memorandum or a book. And then from there, they're going to put together a letter of intent. So after that first step, that's when you have your advisor, such as Rahsaan or myself or Freeman Lundt, any other M&A advisor, sit down and say, let's go through this letter of intent. Let's talk about contingencies, deal structure. Should we counter this offer? And as you go through that, you'll start to flesh out this idea of what's something that gets across the finish line for you. Now, usually there's some conversations ahead of that time. So it's not just out of left field that you get this LOI, but the LOI is generally going to have a structure that works for the buyer, and you want to be looking for something that works for you too. We try to tell people, look at that bar of 90%. You want to be 90% happy, but you want them to be 90% happy too. If anybody's 100% happy, it usually means somebody's 0% happy. So we use that kind of as a baseline, as walking through, finding conditions that work, looking at financial impacts. And once you get to a point where everybody says this looks like the right structure, then we move forward. These next few steps, this is really just opening up the drawer and saying whatever you want. We take the file cabinet. They go, look, I have a legal due diligence I want to do. Perfect. Here you go. Here's all the legal documents. I want to verify your financial. Perfect. Here you go. Here's all our financials, tax returns, whatever you ask for. You want some operational information? Here's how I do sales. Here's how do I monitor all my operations. Anything that has to do that they have questions for, you want to, as a seller, be as transparent as possible because they're going to own this. And the people in that company, they're not going to want somebody that buys the company and said, oh, this is not what I want. Now I'm going to leave. And they're left without a job. So keep in mind that transparency, that ownership part, they really are looking for how do I take this to the next level and make all of the risks that I thought were there go away, or at least go away to the point where now I'm comfortable with that risk. One other thing that's really important as you get toward the end of addressing these contingencies is to make sure you start talking about an operational transition plan. Because at some point in the near future, you're going to close and you're going to want to know, how do I hand over the reins of control? So we'll talk about that in a second. So after you've addressed contingencies, now we go to this next step. You're finalizing the sale. So everything's been handled. You've got your legal, your financial, your operational due diligence. If they're using financing or they have lender in place, then now they're going to go through and say, okay, here are conditions for the lender. After you've got all of that, now you can breathe that big sigh of relief. Those final sale documents are going to come across, are going to be prepared, signed, and now the ownership transfers from you to whoever the new buyer is. Now this is where that next step comes in big, that transition. So up to this point, it's really been talking about, it's my company, now it's going to be yours. But that human capital piece, it's one of the biggest parts of that business sale. And you want to make sure that it's handled with care. You want to make sure that you've taken time to say, these key employees, here's how we should talk about this transition to them. Here's how we should switch operations. Here's how these key sales accounts should be introduced. So going through that transition plan, that's 100% of what makes the sale a successful sale. So at the end of all of this, now that you've sold the company, you've transitioned the company, just really take a time, pat yourself on the back, find some new hobbies to do, and make sure that you're riding off into the sunset, feeling good about what you've accomplished. It took a lot of time to build up the company that you're selling, and it's genuinely going to be something that everybody's going to be excited about.
And if you're bored, you can come see us and buy another one and start it all over again. Well, thanks for attending this episode of Napkin Numbers. Hit the like and subscribe down below, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.